Welcome to the Making of YOR, a podcast where we turn ideas into game mechanics for our upcoming tabletop RPG, YOR. If you'd like to stay up to date on the developments of YOR, head over to our Discord. Link is in the description.
I've kind of been thinking about calling them paths instead of classes.
Just in general?
Yeah, just in general.
All paths?
Yeah, it's your class is your tier 1, and then you follow the fighter path, the barbarian path, or the spell sword path, the ranger path, or...
Interesting.
Because there's straight lines all the way through, so I feel like that fits semantically.
Oh, so any of them, including the cross classes, a cross path?
Yeah, you'd be
a fork in the road. Is that what we're...
Yeah, if you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Catcher for the Yankees, Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra, that's who said that. He was a guy. All right. So we'll do barbarian features then. We have the rage resource.
Yeah.
And we know that unlike rage in a lot of other games, it's not going to be just like a constant effect. It's a resource like everything else in this. So you generate and then you expend rage on actions.
Yeah. The more rage you have, the more barbarian stuff you can do.
Yeah. More rage, better. All right. First feature is power through the pain. So we're going to do this as a...
like a damage reduction type deal?
Yeah, form of damage reduction. We were thinking, so it'll be reaction based since it's not going to be constant. Will it have a varying amount of like spendable? Like if you have more rage, you can mitigate more damage? I think that's what we were talking about when we converted this to a resource-based thing instead of just a reaction.
You subtract a D4d6 for every 2 points of rage you spend.
Let's see. Well, our original plan, because I don't know how much flat DR barbarians are going to have.
Yeah. I like the idea that most of the barbarians DR is rolled.
Okay.
Because the fighter gets more like consistent DR, and I feel like that's a good...
Well, in our game, though, and he's going to have some flat. He's going to have some flat because fighters get heavy armor proficiency, and you're not losing the heavy armor proficiency
as a barbarian.
When you go barbarian. So you're well, not heavy, whatever, tier 3 armor proficiency. So you're still going to have access to armor. It's just the soldier is going to get more benefits from wearing armor than the barbarian will get from wearing armor. And he can wear a higher tier of armor. So if it's going to be rolled, I think you're right. If we're going to have, because they'll have an access to armor, we could theoretically put a benefit that, do we want to deal with armor at all? Like if you wear less armor, power through the pain does more? That seems convoluted. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think.
So then he wears armor and then his power through the pain. D4s sound good because we're going to be letting him wear a tier 3 armor, unlike...
Yeah, so D4 per point of rage he spends that he can reduce.
I think that's probably good because, that's all going to come down to how much we allow for generation. So if you're generating...
to balance the numbers out a little once we get into live testing.
If you're generating one to two... Because on this, the barbarian, you're generating a rage point by making a bonus action.
Or cleaving.
Yes, cleaving's also going to generate.
Cleave's going to have both, because it's going to be part of how he generates resource, and I think it counts when he hits people with it. So he's got a good feedback loop there.
Yeah. I think cleave is just something he can do disconnected from resource. And then he can spend resource to do a better
because
cleave.
He's making a basic attack with cleave. He's still getting one back from that, isn't he?
Is he? I thought that cleave is going to be your action. Because you generate resource not from basic attacks.
I thought that was... Well, no, you get... Fighters, whatever, they get a point of resource for using their regular attack action, I thought.
It's for using their bonus.
They get their bonus, but they also get one whenever they hit somebody.
We did not discuss that, but we could add that.
Well, we talked last time because you made the point that
that was just for the warlord, or no, it was just for the
soldier.
The For each attack hitting thing, when we discussed that was the weapon master. So every time the weapon master would hit, it would put a stack on that target.
And for that as well.
You could signature move and you would do additional damage for each time you'd hit them.
Right, because he has a static signature move cost.
Yeah, and it just gets better. No, the way that we have it worked is that resources generated by using one of the base bonus action features. So when you buff, when you take your bonus action with the Mystic and buff, you get a resource. Now we might say, and I think we should leave it that way.
Okay.
We could change it to say that using those generate 2 resource instead of 1 when you use that. But I think it's going to get really convoluted if we say this thing for this person generates resource. If we want new things to generate resource beyond the basic like bonus action that exists on it, it should be within the archetype of a given thing you pick. I don't think we want to add it to features because we already don't have a second resource generator for the fighter or for the soldier. So if we make one for the barbarian, we're going to have to go back.
Okay.
But I do think the idea of saying that your bonus action...
I think rage or cleave probably needs to cost rage then. We
could do that. Our original idea was that cleave was an action you could take.
Yeah.
And you could only hit 1 additional target with it.
Well, I don't know if it was an action. I remember talking about it as it was a modifier to your basic attack, but not your quick attack that you got from fighter. It was just a thing that they did on their regular attack that was better, that made it better.
Yeah, the way that I had originally thought of it, it was not something you could do as a part of your quick action attack.
Oh, no, it's not. You have to use it on your regular attack.
Exactly.
But it's not like a separate action thing. It's just a modifier that's permanent and you can do it every time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, however we want to phrase it, I think we were thinking about it the same way. It was just something you can do, and it's a regular attack action. You can't do it as your quick attack, but you can do it as your regular attack, and you can only hit 1 extra target. And then you could spend, because at one time we thought, you'll enter a state of rage, and then we abandoned the whole rage state. Yeah,
because that's what it was, is you could do that whenever you were in rage.
So you could just do it now, and then if you could do a better one that would hit all adjacent targets. And that was your improved cleave. But you have to spend rage to do the one that hits multiple targets. I think that was the last state we had it in.
Okay.
Which if we do it that way, then I think we want to make the one that hits all adjacent targets a fairly high rage cost.
Yeah,
if we're going to leave the regular cleave as no cost.
It's probably 4 or 5, pretty close to the maximum.
Yeah, something that you have to... build up rage points to hit everyone adjacent.
That might be a tier 3 thing even.
I think that might be a good idea as a rage cost. A way to spend rage at tier 3.
Yeah.
So tier 2 you just have because we have power through the pain and then intimidate on kill. Those were the 2 features. We didn't name the intimidate on kill, just that's what it does. So power through the pain, you could expend rage points.
Yeah. Oh, we could change that intimidate on kill to the execute mechanic.
Oh, yeah. We did talk about that.
Yeah, brutal execution.
Brutal execution. Yeah, I agree. But we could give, now that I'm thinking about it, if we're going to up resource generation to 2 resource instead of 1 resource per use of your basic feature.
Oh. Well, are we? We don't have to.
No, we don't have to, but I was just thinking about that.
If we do that.
If we did that, then we could make something like power through the pain is you can spend, for every point you spend, you get another D4. And then cleave could be 1.
Yeah.
And then the improved cleave you get later would be, maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
For the one that hits everything.
3 feels right for tier 3.
And then execute could be like 3 or 4. Something like that. Because it's based on a prone enemy, and then you could hit them for like massive damage.
Well, I feel like it's probably not that expensive because it's less often that you can
conditional.
Do it.
You have to have someone
prone. More conditional. So
it also could be 2.
Yeah, have it cost 2, have... If we move that whirlwind, hit everybody cleave to tier 3, what is It's
Soldiers is size up.
Yeah.
Then signature move.
Yeah, so I feel like cleave costing 1, power through the pain being variable.
I don't think when we landed on size up, it wasn't going to cost anything.
Okay, so then cleave probably shouldn't either then. And you only hit 1 extra person.
Yeah, we decided that size up was just what we called an ability check.
Yeah.
So you were going to make a reason check.
Yeah, that's what it was. You made a reason check to have it go off.
And your spending of focus was only on the signature move. And so then if we do this, the Barbarian will have he'll have 2 things he can spend resource on.
Yeah.
I don't know if that may make us want to make size up.
Yeah, we'll see how the other ones go. They don't all have to be perfectly 1-to-1 as long as they feel balanced.
Yeah. Well, and one of his is obviously like the soldier has tier 3 weapons and armor, which is obviously not something that can interact with points, or resource expenditure. So we'll do power through the point or power through the pain, 1d4
per point of rage.
Per point of rage spent, and then cleave attack is free.
$3.99, baby.
We'll put that at, I guess, 2 for now.
Yeah, I'd brutal execution 2.
Well, it could even be if we're gonna make cleave free.
Yeah,
then we could take brutal execution up to like 3 or something. Even. I guess it all depends on how strong we want to make it.
It's because it's going to be probably in line with the Paladin's Smite, but it's going to be a lot more situational.
Yeah, because you have to have a
prone enemy.
A prone or
incapacitated.
We'll do status. Yeah, some type of status
of
list.
Incapacitated enemy, stun, something. There'll be a list of conditions that it applies to. But they got to be holding still.
Yeah. So we'll do 2 points for execute.
Yeah. Big whack plus intimidate.
Or you want to have an intimidation
well, yeah,
effect
I think
too?
the fact that you cleaved this guy into giblets is probably where his scare the people thing comes from. Because he needs some kind of crowd control ability as base, I think.
Do we want to say then that for the 2 points, you're getting a brutal execution as your action, and then you
it's always been a full round action to do it.
Oh, it's a full round action.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what, yeah.
Because it's all you do in that turn, so it ought to be pretty good, right?
Yeah, full round action, 2 points, and free intimidation. How much damage do we want it to do compared to the base?
That is a great question.
I mean, the two choices are like 50% or double.
Yeah.
Or I guess we could just look at a number of D6s. And then maybe it's not dependent on the weapon you're using. Well, of course, the weapons now, we've talked about that. It was going to be a D6 plus flat numbers based on your tier of weapon.
D6 equal to twice your tier? Does that feel like crazy high?
4d6 sounds too high. That's going to be like at least triple your normal attack damage.
Yeah,
is that too much?
I mean, what if we don't add the weapon damage to it? What if it's just a static damage number? Like it doesn't do 46 plus whatever, it does 46 damage as the attack.
Yeah, versus what would have been a 1d6
plus 4 or whatever where your weapon is. This just does this much damage.
Yeah, because we're not going to have, none of your ability modifiers are going to apply to damage. Right? Is that what we decided?
We have something like that.
We've discussed that
but you don't have an ability modifier, so
sure, your ability points. Nothing about your ability score would apply to how much damage you do on a given attack.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we'll just put it in here as equal to twice your tier. That was a lot easier than the soldier.
Yeah,
I think. What do we do that in like 15 minutes? I think we spent an hour on the soldier.
That first ability. Well, barbarians are a lot more, I don't want to say iconic, but they have a lot more visual flavor in media.
Yeah. Well, and they're traditionally more simplistic. Whereas with the fighter, we're trying to
stuff real hard is a lot easier to mechanically simulate than I am awesome with a sword.
Yeah, and we're trying to make something unique in the case of the soldier.
I think a lot of the reason the soldier was hard is because we knew we were going to give all the easy big damage stuff to the barbarian.
Yeah.
So we had to come up with all right, how do we replicate him being good at this without him just doing more damage?
Yeah, that is much more complex. Well, then with the barbarian out of the way, we'll move on to the wizard.
Oh, well, we still got his archetypes to do.
Oh, yeah. Did I? Oh, I guess.
Yeah, we've got
I don't
Weapon
remember
Master.
where I wrote down. I looked up and I forgot that we'd done those Weapon Master.
Oh,
Juggernaut,
no, that's
Warlord.
his signature move. That's
Yeah, we did what we spent all that time on was the signature moves for
that's right.
them.
Because they each have a different one.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think.
Which was a good portion of, but it doesn't, there's going to be something else for the Weapon Master, Juggernaut, and Warlord.
Yeah.
We just hadn't dealt with that yet.
Yeah, so we don't have to do that.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Wizard has mana.
Yeah, for that good magic.
Mm-hmm. He has his spells. So we have to talk about spell shaping and the familiar. So he's going to have, coming off the Magus, so he's going to have a quick action cantrip to generate resource. And he's going to be able to spend that resource on spell shaping.
Yeah.
And we have the possibility that he could spend that resource to do cool things with his familiar.
Yes.
If we want to have a familiar that's more interactive than he sees things.
Yeah, it's all right. You are my source for advantage from one attack a turn, owl.
Yeah. Familiar is other than like...
Yeah, or if you're playing 3/5, Toad until I don't need that 3 hit point buff.
Yeah.
When I respec with a better familiar.
All right. So then spell shaping. Let's do that.
All right. So wizards can change the element flavor and the shape of the spell that they memorized.
And you can do it when casting, right?
When casting, yeah.
Yeah. So at any point, you don't have to prepare really any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it costs, maybe 1 point of mana for the shape and 1 point of mana for the elemental flavor.
Okay.
Or maybe 1 point of mana for the shape and 2 points of mana for the flavor.
So you'll still have to prepare.
Yeah, you have one prepared, and if you get it right at the beginning of the day with your cone of cold, but you get into you can, freeze the fire elemental. But if you get out and it's, a water elemental that's really far away and there's, 2 or 3 of them in a line, then you can spend 3 points to change it to, lightning damage.
Yeah.
And then, or 2 points to change it to lightning damage, and then 1 point to change it from a cone to a line.
Okay. Yeah. And that doesn't feel too bad. I mean, there's obviously going to be limitations on...
We might switch those if it feels like the shaping mechanic is more powerful than the elemental one, but I
think
have no
it
idea.
Probably will be.
All right, then we can switch them 1 point to change the elemental flavor and 2 points to change the shaping.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be more powerful. It all depends probably on how tactical we deal with the game in that context and how much we actually make regarding resistances and weaknesses to damage types, which is something that when we started, we planned on largely avoiding, like the level of granularity.
They have vulnerabilities, which means it does true damage, and that's it.
Yeah. And as long as, if we have it that simple, it's not overly granular, but it is important. You definitely want to hit those things that will avoid resistances or, damage reduction and things like that.
Oh, we should note that only applies to the combat spell.
Yeah. All right. Familiar. So I think for the familiar, aside from point expenditure, we need, and this is going to be something that we probably can't fully make yet because we haven't made creatures.
Monsters, yeah.
We haven't made the monsters. So we obviously are going to need to define a monster list that you can pick from.
Oh man, the temptation is there to just say any tier 0 creature, including like a dirt farmer.
You mean like a human?
Yes.
I don't hate that.
Yeah,
I feel like for the necromancer vibe, if your plan is to play a necromancer,
you have a familiar,
a spirit, a trapped spirit,
spirit, just a dirt farmer that you kidnapped. and did a magical ritual on, and now he follows you around for magic powers.
So a familiar could be a living thing that you've captured.
Well, so you make him into your familiar whenever but it could be any tier 0 creature.
Which is I guess you'd be storying it.
Yeah, you'd have to pick one that was appropriate to the story, but
so any tier 0 creature. I ain't got no issue with that right now. One day it might.
Yeah.
We might be like, this was a mistake.
Right, this is bad for a bunch of reasons, but right now it sounds cool. I mean, tier 0 creatures are by definition just awful.
Pretty crap.
Yeah.
Pretty crap. Okay, so that's simple. Any tier 0 creature. And I like that. That's going to be potentially, weird.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Since we're only giving the wizard the familiar, having, other than boons, which will get you
you can
potential.
Grab one.
But as a class feature, him being like, anything I want.
Yeah, I can only have one, but it can be anything that's weak enough.
That's cool.
What do we want a familiar to be able to do? Definitely cast spells from their space.
So the second question, though, becomes, will your option for a familiar upgrade? Or like as you increase in tiers? Like if you're a tier 4, can you have a stronger familiar?
I don't know. You may have to take a feat for that. That may be an improved familiar feat.
Okay.
Like you get to tier 3 and you're like, oh, you can improve it. But not everybody does that because, it's still, owls are still helpful. That peasant farmer's still, good at fetching potions and dumping them into a cauldron from far away.
Yeah. So not a base increase.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay. So you, any tier 0 creature, you can cast spells.
As if they originated from its space?
With a range limitation. The familiar probably has to stay within X distance of you. Like it can't be 10 miles away from you.
Maybe, I don't know, is line of sight? You got to be able to see them.
You have to be able to see the familiar.
Yeah, you have to be able to see the familiar.
Will familiars have, if that's the case, though, do they have... Because if you're casting it, the question becomes, do you need to have line of sight of the thing that it's being cast at? Or is it just if the familiar can see it, it doesn't matter if you can see it? You can cast it from the familiar space.
Yeah, it's probably just
tactically.
As long as you can see the familiar, you can cast from there. So you can send him around the corner and make him throw the fireball.
That's pretty good. Yeah. Okay, so you can cast spells originating from the familiar space.
We need a ritual spell.
I don't know that we want just line of sight. Because you get back to just line of sight, then you're like, oh, the wizard's on the castle wall and he's got binoculars so he can see the familiar who's 1,000 feet away.
I mean, I don't hate that. That's explicitly how explosive runes used to work. Like a very viable tactic in old school D&D was like trap a bunch of trap a pass with a bunch of explosive runes and then have the sorcerer stand on a different mountaintop watching and reading them whenever he saw somebody go by.
Yeah. Well, and that's cool. I don't know. Do we want that in our game though?
I mean, I kind of do.
Do we want like a narrow, interesting? We're like right from the get-go on that class, we're like designing something to kind of cheese with. But
it feels like the halflings in there, they're lucky the same way Bilbo is lucky. They don't actually have a mechanical effect that they roll for, but the random tables benefit them. It feels like some actual real thing that would happen in the world.
I just know this is going to be meta build.
So I think if we do this and then put in we definitely need a resurrect familiar ritual that lets you bring a familiar back very cheaply.
You can't just summon a new one at the start of each day.
We can't do the resource cost to summon them because that only works in combat.
Yeah, no, of course it's not going to be a resource cost. I just meant like you can only summon like one at the start of the day.
I figured
or something
we'd just make
like
it a ritual spell. Like
oh, sure.
Like war magic or whatever, since we're building that system anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. So what was your resurrection idea?
Oh, just we need a spell that lets them bring their familiar back to life for very cheap compared to other resurrections. Just so that, when they send them around a corner to shoot a fireball and they die, they can get them back for not a lot of resource cost, just some inconvenience.
Yeah, just inconvenience and time.
The spell should have an inconvenience cost, not a material cost.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Oh, damn, Jerry died.
Again?
Yeah. It's going to take like hours to fix this.
Yeah.
I got to go through a whole downtime encounter. It's a pain in my ass.
Alrighty, so that handles familiar, at least as far as how he functions. So what would be, it probably cost resource to cast from his location?
Probably the same number of resource that it probably just doubles the cost of the spell.
Because we're going to have...
Especially since it's line of sight.
Yeah. So we might, we've been talking about resource caps.
Yeah.
And I think that might look different for each class even.
Yeah, it may.
Because the nature of a resource...
How good is their resource according to...
How much they have to spend it on and like what kind of character they're on.
And that's a good balance lever too.
Yeah, so, someone like the fighter probably has a substantially lower, like he can only have, let's say, 4 resource.
Yeah.
Where the wizard should be able to have like 6 or 8.
Something like
max
that.
resource at tier 2.
Yeah.
Whatever. Right. He should be able to have a higher max resource, I think.
Yeah.
Because he's got more things.
Because we can balance how much resource they have in their pool against how good the stuff their resource does.
This is true. But what I mean is that because it costs resource to cast spells.
Yes.
It's going to cost resource to shape them.
Yeah.
And it costs resource
to use your familiar to cast them somewhere else. So yeah. Because I think we talked about they use 1 mana per tier of the spell.
Yeah. You're casting. So which is interesting because you could start a game or you start a combat encounter and you're looking at the scenario and you're casting a cantrip, right? You use your bonus action cantrip to generate resource. And so you're kind of planning ahead like, all right, I've got the right damage type on my spell, but I'm positioning myself to use a different shape.
Yeah.
So I'm only going to need to shape the spell, but I don't need to change the damage type. And I want to cast a tier 2 spell. And so that's going to cost me 3 mana to cast the tier 2 spell and to
change the mana type
or whatever. Change the
damage type. Yeah.
Yeah. The
change
damage
it from fire to acid.
Well, and also thinking maybe we'll start with 1 for both damage type and shape.
Okay.
Just 1 to start. And then we might, if it's like,
yeah, because the elementalist is almost certainly going to get the elemental switch for free.
Yeah. So let's just start with 1 then.
All right, cool.
I think that was our original discussion with the elementalist was damage type changing for free.
Mm-hmm. We didn't have the resource when we designed that, but
yeah.
I think giving him you only have to pay for the shaping. You get to swap elements for free feels very elementalist to me.
Yeah. Agreed. And then to cast it from your familiar, let's just start with it costs 1 additional point.
All right, cool. Just 1 extra for everything, and then we can balance around that.
Yeah. I don't think we have enough info regarding these things to really effectively define the numbers.
I very much am just pulling these numbers out of my ass.
Yeah. So starting with 1 on all of them feels like, all right, the wizard gets to do a lot of different stuff and he's got to generate mana for it.
So all 1. Yeah. And then, necromancer, elementalist, and magician will have their own method of gaining those. I don't know what elementalist and magician is, but necromancer is almost certainly killing things.
Yeah, it gets extra mana for killing a thing.
Ripping souls out of people for literal mana.
Yeah. Yeah, he'll probably get a bonus action. Because I think that was a lot of what we've looked at for that. He might get a bonus action.
Rip the soul out of a dead body.
When a creature has died or whatever.
In this combat,
in this combat, you can use your bonus action to, instead of casting a cantrip and getting 2 resource for casting that cantrip, you can rip a soul out and get 4 resource instead of doing...
What if full round action, you get a number of resource equal to twice the thing's tier?
That doesn't... I get that. That's not strong enough, though.
Is it not?
No, because assuming you're tier 2, or you're tier 2 necromancer.
Yeah. Oh, so full round action, max your pool.
That would be better. If we want it to just be about resource, that would probably make more sense. Whatever we make the pool...
You can spend a full round action, rip the soul out of a dead body, and
fill your mana pool.
Because you'll never be able to do it on... Well, you could do it on turn 1 if
somebody else has killed a thing.
Yeah, if you can drop somebody in that first round.
But that's okay. You're not interacting. You're throwing no cantrips. You're not interacting in the first
anything or moving.
Yeah, for the first round of combat.
Yeah. And, necromancers have an easy path to power. That feels appropriate. But it's dangerous.
Yeah, I'll put that down there for now, and we'll see how that balances out. I like it, though.
Yeah, it feels thematic. We'll probably do something along those lines, even if that isn't the mechanic we use.
Throw it in since we're here.
Hell yeah. The way games are made. Magician gets one back every time he corrects them and says it's an illusion, not a trick.
Yeah, I'll end up rewriting this for legalese game definition. But a full round action, fill your mana pool with the soul of a foe who has fallen in this combat.
Perfect.
I'll end up, like I say, legalesing it.
Yeah, we'll have to change all the...
Make sure that it's a hostile enemy.
And
you can't bring a rat to combat and stab it at the start of combat and then suck its little rat soul out.
We'll have a thing where it says what an enemy is. And we'll have all the verbiage that makes it very clear, if you understand the jargon of the game, exactly what everything means.
Yeah, no gimmick.
Consistent verbiage is what we're going to have in the final book.
Yeah. Alrighty, so on to Sorcerer then.
Excellent. Blood points. That's their resource.
Yes, and they generate that through casting cantrips like the wizard does casting cantrips as well, as they're both maguses.
Yeah.
Now he can spend those blood points. Let's see, we never made the magic in the blood.
Yeah.
We got to make a list of uses. This one might take a while. Then we also have a spell.
I mean, magic in the blood is going to be like the fighter. It's going to have a different one for every archetype, I bet.
I think you're right. And I like the continuity to just build it like the fighter. And then blood is a ritual component, which won't cost blood points. So you're going to have it for spell shaping, and you're going to have it for the magic in the blood list of uses. Alrighty, let's begin this and see if we can get it into this episode.
Heck yeah. All right. Royal. We talked about this being like the Bondsmith from Stormlight Archive.
Yeah, because you talked about land or something in one of them.
The Arthurian legend of the Fisher King, the king and the land are one.
Yeah.
So he's like...
So I think that his health is the kingdom's health. I think we probably want to have that connection to people and not maybe physical land that might be ruled. And I only say that because we wouldn't want it to be limited to him having some possession over land.
Yeah, no, I think his thing is probably interacts with the party.
Yeah, it could be interaction with the party, but he also could be another follower archetype.
Yeah.
So he could build followers, minions of a sort.
Yeah, he gets
and that somehow relates to his power. Yeah, because we have Royal, Dragon, and Planar. And I think Royal probably fits into pet archetype best if we're going to have like he has subjects.
I think it's probably a toss-up between Royal and Planar, but I have more good ideas for other options for the Planar. So,
okay. So Royal is going to have subjects in some way and be able to, I guess, interact with followers. What all did we want Royal to be able to do? Let's talk about the general archetype for a second.
Yeah.
Just as a theme. We don't even have to come up with like solidified ideas, but just something to move actually what magic in the blood might mean.
What cool stuff do we see Royal magic users do? There's this old book series I read by a lady I think named Tamora Pierce called the Tortal series. And in that one, the king like literally can make like Charlemagne is where I think they got it from, is let the birds in the air and the trees and the woods and the rocks on the beach be my armies or something like that. Well, I'm just trying to think of like what's a good way to mechanically represent that like the stuff around you is your army that isn't stepping on the druid's toes.
I got to say, I don't know that I have any ideas really for this.
Maybe, I don't know, like a lifelink kind of ability.
Well, if we have something that links to the party, like you said at the beginning, I think that's the easiest to implement.
Yeah, that's more like the bondsmith idea we talked about.
Yeah, I think that makes for better implementation if it's not abstract.
Yeah.
And related to just everything around you, but it's rather...
Honestly, that stuff probably fits more as like tier 4 anyway. When you're a royal blood sorcerer and you're a king.
Yeah. I think a lot of that gets really difficult if you don't own land.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really powerful if I'm in my living room.
Boon class for this.
Yeah, potentially. All right. So if we're going to say the royal sorcerer has special connections to the party. So he's a form of like, not necessarily support, but maybe he draws power from party members. All right,
what if they can pay hit points to fuel his blood magic? Like the necromancer can rip out the souls of dead goblins and whatever to fuel his. What if party members can willingly pay blood points to the sorcerer so that he can get cool effects?
That's interesting.
Like 5 HP per blood point or whoever.
Yeah, that's interesting. So can he sacrifice his own HP? Is that part of the plan with the idea of blood points?
We talked about that, but I never thought of like a good mechanical way to represent that isn't like, oh, well, it's a race to zero.
Yeah, it's a race to zero. Because I think the last thing that that I had talked about in this system was like using cantrips. Like in the Magus, you generate resource points by, at least the Magus special feature. So what that means for the sorcerer is that you're like waking up the magic in your blood. So as you use it, you're gaining
more
power
oomph
to expend. Yeah. Right.
You're rousing the latent magic that flows through your veins.
Which is what blood points meant. You weren't necessarily spending hit points.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not their hit points. Maybe it's their resource pools.
Oh, maybe they can, like a 2-to-1. They can spend 2 to give you 1.
Something like that.
Yeah. Get my life for the king.
Yeah. All right. Royal can use party members' resource pools at a to be determined conversion ratio.
Yeah.
We'll probably try 2-to-1 when we do some play testing and see what that turns into. I don't think that's a bad thing because, you know, if using your basic feature generates 2, then each of these people are going to have 2. And maybe you have 2 different party members who both sack so that you on turn 1 can cast a tier 2 spell.
Yeah, that's, sorcerers are explodey.
Yeah. So, yeah, magic in the blood. So we have that as a alternative form of resource generation. Now, we determined that you don't have a number of spells you can cast in a day.
No, you just have a number of spells you've memorized, and they're in that
and then you require a resource to cast that spell.
Yes.
And so a royal who's got one tier 2 spell, he can just keep casting that tier 2 spell if everyone wants to feed resource to him. That's
a very good play style.
That's an interesting idea for sure. Do you think we need... So we've got tier 2 spell, and we've got an alternative generation method with magic in the blood.
Yeah.
Is that what we want? Are we going to have something akin to that?
Well, I think the Royals being that passive extra generation is fine.
And then the others might
will probably be more traditional as a way to spend it.
As a way to spend it. So the Royal doesn't have as many ways to spend
it, but he's got way more to get it.
He can just get it and spend it on his tier 2 spell. And it's just his allies.
Or whatever he gets in his archetype for subjects.
Yeah, whatever other thing he can do with potentially buff allies or... Yeah, that he can filter. Really, if you're a Magic player, he's a form of
magical filter.
Yeah, he's a resource filter. He could take in those resource points from other people
and convert them to something that's more useful,
beneficial to the team in some way.
Yeah,
that's an interesting utility guy. All right, so then the dragon.
All right. I mean, grow dragon parts, breath weapon, something.
Yeah.
Some form of dragon ability.
For sure. Has to be dragony.
So, cool parts of a dragon. Wings.
Is it going to be... So all of them will be like transmorphication or whatever.
Transmogrify.
So you could get wings. Yeah, we had discussed this before. The idea of getting
frightful presence.
Yeah, frightful presence.
Something like that.
Do we want to give multiple? If we give multiple options to him, then we might want to add one other option to the royal. Like we could give, unless we want to give one thing you can spend it on right now, and then it changes as you level to additional things.
Maybe 2 options. Maybe wings or frightful presence.
Yeah. And then maybe we'll do something like a breath weapon at the next tier.
Yeah, tier 3, they probably just get a breath weapon.
Yeah. That might be just a different feature separate from this.
Up in their archetypes in tier 3, they probably just get you have a breath weapon now of the type of dragon you are.
The other thing, frightful presence could be a later thing too.
Yeah.
And what it could be is that you could get wings or scales.
Oh, yeah.
Wings or scales. Scales for extra defense.
Yeah.
And wings for mobility. That might be a good option at tier 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, wings or scales.
Mobility or defense.
And let's see. Sorcerers are going to have no access to armor because they're coming off of Magus, which I think doesn't get any armor at all.
Yeah.
So sorcerers will have no base access to armor. So do we think scales should maybe be equal to tier 3 armor?
I'd say equal to their tier.
Okay. I like that.
Because, tier 4 dragon sorcerer, impenetrable scales.
Yeah, he's like
tier
right
2
up there
dragon
with soldiers.
Sorcerer, eminently penetrable scales.
Yeah. Medium armor versus like ultra heavy armor.
Like Space Marine plate.
Yeah, I like that. And dragon wings that grant a fly speed that is twice.
What about Reaction movement.
So not a fly speed?
Well, it would have a fly speed, but it's as a reaction, you can move 30 feet in any direction.
Interesting.
I don't know. Maybe it's just a quick action to fly 30 feet.
Yeah, was interesting. We've been playing Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot of creatures have a fly option,
mm-hmm.
and it still uses their movement.
Yeah.
But it is also a quick action. So it takes up your quick action and your move action, but instead of just moving, you can now fly in any direction that same amount of feet, but you don't stay in the air.
You can arc over.
Yeah, so you're not actually like soaring
above
30
the
feet
clouds,
in the sky where you can't be interacted with. Now, of course, it's probably just because of the nature of Baldur's Gate, and it's you don't want to have someone way up in the sky.
It's a lot of coding to have them not on the ground,
nowhere near the map.
Yeah,
which we don't obviously face that issue in an imaginary game. So you want to be able to actually fly, but if you just if you give them like a 60-foot fly speed, using your wings consumes your quick action as well.
Yeah, it could just be for one turn, gain 60 feet of fly speed as a quick action. Or double your movement and gain a fly speed.
Well, it could be so. It could be that you spend resource.
Yeah.
To get the wings.
Mm-hmm.
Busting out the wings costs resource. And then to use them to fly, because you'll have the wings maybe for the rest of the combat.
Yeah, they're either a one round or one turn, or they're an encounter.
Yeah, we don't really have anything that we're building things simplistically in that regard, time wise.
Yeah, it either lasts for your turn this turn, or it lasts for the whole encounter.
So you can sprout the wings, and then for the rest of the encounter, you have a 60-foot fly speed.
I mean,
but does it consume your quick action as well to use it? You're not going to be generating resource if you're using it then, because you're not going to be using your
that feels balanced. You're losing a round of resource generation.
But every time you use it, you're going to lose a round of resource generation. But now you have 60-foot
fly speed for mobility,
which is really strong.
Yeah.
If used by someone who knows what they're doing, a 60-foot fly speed is, if there's melee creatures coming after me, they're never going to catch me.
Yeah.
But you could also just use that 60-foot fly speed one turn to get somewhere that they're not going to be able to reach you easily. And then you're just unloading on them from that position.
Yeah.
Generating resource again.
So that's the thing. There's this book I read where the guy gets wings or something, and he can use them to like portal through time or whatever. Like one of the things they do is like a teleport.
Yeah.
And there was an old, I think, Conjuration Wizard optional class feature for 3.5 where you could teleport 10 feet as reaction to like get out of damage. And I don't hate the idea that it's just a reaction teleport that you can only use once around. But I don't know if that feels very dragony.
I like the feature, but I agree. It doesn't sound dragony. Dragons aren't normally like the...
Yeah. Okay. What if... I was thinking about this for the planar, but what if Magic in the Blood it's a retributive strike thing?
I don't dislike that. That
it's
sounds
literally
pretty cool.
Like, do you want scales or blood instead of scales or wings? And then at tier 3, they can pick between breath weapon or wings, which feels like a much harder choice.
Yeah. So in this, will you have two options and you can you have them both as basically prepared options that you can choose between? And then you're saying at tier 3?
Well, no. So this would be scales or blood. And then at tier 3, you would get, because this isn't all that the dragon will get. They will have some stuff in their archetype.
Okay, so what this is going to be is you level up and you pick between a couple of options, and then you're locked into that option. And then so when we get to tier 3, we'll have two new options like whatever breath weapon and wings, and you got to pick. Do you want mobility or do you want another damage option?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
So what do we think that this reaction ability at tier 2
I
would
think
be?
it's like whenever you are hit by weapon attack, or I don't know, it may be could be any kind of damage depending on how we do it. But I was thinking like if you're a fire dragon bloodline, then like your blood literally catches on fire when it comes out of you. And you can set people on fire because they got their blood on you. So they take, 2, 3d6.
So they need to
fire
be
damage.
an adjacent enemy there.
Yeah, they'd have to be an adjacent enemy for that. But it could be something like if you get hit with a weapon, you can spend a reaction to try and fear them or something.
Interesting. Okay. So like a neutered frightful presence.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, hold on. Sticking with the transmogrify, or what's the word?
Transmogrify.
Transmogrify theme, which we're getting with breath, wings, and scales. What if one of the options is instead of scales, you could do claws?
Okay.
Because that's, I think, more more balanced with, do you want damage like a melee? And it could be like they could let you do certain things. And like maybe you can rend with them or something, type of thing.
Yeah, it's like bonus to grappling or...
Yeah. You get to use a different stat for grappling. You get to make the check differently than a grapple check because you're basically grappling them with magic claws.
Yeah, well, it's, it could just be like the armor and it's treated as a weapon equal to your tier, except that it does elemental damage instead of physical.
Yeah, it's treated as magic damage or something like that.
It's treated as being
untyped, like an untyped magic damage.
It's not physical, it's magical.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, claws or scales.
You want defense or offense?
Equal to their tier. And the scales are, so you just get, because they normally get access to tier 1 weapons, I believe, or no. Mages get access to tier 1 weapons.
Yeah, I think everybody gets access to tier 1 weapons.
Yes, at least, yeah. So they get tier 1 weapons, but this means that at that tier, you'd now have a tier 2 weapon. And then the next level, you'd have a tier 3 weapon.
And then a tier 4.
Is there something... So your dragon type, that's probably where it comes in. Your dragon type that you pick will modify both the claws or the scales, whichever one you picked. So the scales are going to give you armor equal to your tier.
And the claws would give you
a weapon equal to its tier.
And then they will both be modified by the type of dragon you're descended from.
Yeah, and so the type, like in this case of scales, it might be that you have resistance to that damage type or immunity to that damage type.
Something
to that effect. And the claws, so immunity to that damage type. And the claws could give you bonus damage to your attacks of that damage type.
I think they're probably just treated as of an elemental type. So when you come across a thing that takes true damage from that counts.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that there would be a reason, and it might end up coming in through boon classes or something else, but a reason that you'd want to be doing melee combat as a sorcerer. You know what I mean? Like just having a tier 2 weapon probably isn't enough to say, yep, I'm ready to get in melee combat.
Yeah, I don't know. It's those. What other abilities do they have?
Tier 2 spells is the only other real thing they have.
Yeah.
One tier 2 spell, and they have whatever.
We'll just have to give something to Dragon.
Cantrips. Yeah.
It'll be in its archetype.
Yeah, it'll have to be in its archetype. It modifies those claws in some way that would make you want to use them. Yeah. But it could just be what it ends up growing into.
Yeah.
The other things that you end up getting might be
We
useful.
may come up with a better idea than claws. Who knows?
Yeah. All right.
But I like the duality of armor or offense.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice between the two. And then blood is a ritual component. That's pretty straightforward. You're going to be able to substitute your blood for a ritual component. Probably, I assume, because we use tiers pervasively, that different ritual magic will require components of different tiers.
Yeah, you can replace any component in a tier 2 spell or below, ritual spell or below, with your blood.
And then if you're probably a component equal to your tier.
Yeah, so like you can't use your blood in a tier 3 ritual.
Yeah, but you could use it
in a tier 2 ritual.
In a tier 2, but then when you're tier 4,
you can use it in anything because you have cool blood.
Yeah.
You have that good sorcerer blood. It's all primed and ready to be a magical conduit.
Yep. That's freaking dope.
Hell yeah. Verisimilitude, baby. It feels truthy.
So what was when we picked, because we picked obviously all of these based on some general themes, royal being the pet.
Oh yeah,
we talked about
was
pet.
like, you're descended from an elemental or an angel or a demon or whatever.
Okay. So you're going to pick.
What is be like a communication thing, maybe? Barriers between the planes are thin here.
Yeah. So I think actually, we're talking about Dragon having this ability to like change body parts kind of themes.
Yeah.
I feel like because Sorcerer's power is inherently in their blood.
Yeah.
I think we should have all of them have some definition of like the way that they look is affected by their archetype.
Yeah.
So in the case of the Dragon, you're picking something that has a very specific use, right? But the Royal should be like something to the effect of like, oh, a Royal is always attractive. Like regardless of what he looks like, maybe like
they've got that like Douglas MacArthur thing where everybody can tell when they walk into a room.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like anything physical as much as just like a charisma of sorts.
They've got a presence.
Yeah. And then the Dragon, of course, is going to look like they've got some dragon blood in them, probably in a variety of ways. You
got the snake pupils, and
things like that. And then you can pick these specific, more dynamic transformations. So if that's the case, then the planar is going to have the same thing of like you pick elemental, demon, or angel, or whatever the three are that we end up landing on, and those features affect you physically in some way. But then you're going to get some feature that's probably related to how you look changed.
Yeah. So
some like a mechanical feature.
All right. So there's, let's say, 4. There's upper planes, which are like angels. There's middle planes, which are elementals. There's lower planes, which are like demons and devils. And then there's outside the planes, which is like Cthulhu.
All right. Yeah. Do we want to call that just an outsider? Or do we want to have... Or do you want me to call them upper, lower, middle, and
that's just sort of how I'm thinking of in my head.
In our kind of like
cosmology,
lore, our lore world. Okay, so what would you want to call then? Just an outsider?
Yeah, outsider.
I mean that feels right.
Yeah.
And then so planar is going to have 4 different options based on which archetype you pick.
Yeah, they have a physical feature that manifests.
Yeah. And so elemental magic in the blood is probably not completely unlike the wizard elementalist. Except for instead of being able to switch elements, I suspect that you're going to do extra damage or you're going to do something additional if you're casting a spell of a given element.
I'm
you're associated
sort of imagining you sort of like halfway transform into that element. So like the earth elemental gets damage reduction and the fire elemental catches on fire.
Maybe has like an aura damage.
Yeah, aura damage, something like that.
Okay. So
the water elemental becomes able to fit through very small spaces.
So we'll just do like the 5 elements kind of thing. Like,
do we want to do earth, air, fire, water? Or do we want to do, what is it? Wood, fire, air, water, void, metal, the Chinese ones.
I like earth, air, water, fire.
I mean, it's more of a Western market. So
yeah, I think that's, at least for us.
Yeah,
it's probably going to be. Yeah. I feel like earth, air, water, fire is probably enough.
Yeah.
Someone's going to be like, why didn't you put this other one in there? But 4 is enough, and we don't need to overcomplicate the early stages of this.
So theirs could be each one of those in planar gets a physical manifestation from their archetype list, and then their thing in the magic in the blood improves that feature. So like the demon version of the planar gets like forked tongue, and they are better at convincing people to do stuff in combat. And then their planar one, magic in the blood, straight up lets them brainwash people or whatever.
Oh, okay. So like a static benefit versus
a static benefit that they can spend points on in combat to make better.
Yeah. So in the case of the planar elemental, and there's obviously, this is kind of like nested.
Yeah.
Right. So the planar, so it's really a lot of depth here in planar compared to the others that don't really have that much depth. At least yet.
Yeah.
I don't dislike this, but
yeah. Hey, we got to have classes of people who are really into the nitty gritty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Dragon's going to have a decent amount of depth too.
Yeah.
We'll have to figure something out for Royal. But so if you're an elemental planar and you choose Earth, that's going to give you some static benefit.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be able to do magic in the blood, and you can, maybe your spells can move people or something like that. Like there's more like physical force behind the spells. Or,
yeah. I mean, we already gave gnomes a bro speed. Maybe we just give you one too.
Oh, like maybe an earth elemental. That's their basic thing is a burrow speed.
Well, their basic thing is probably like, damage resistance, and then their active is a burrow speed.
Interesting. The opposite. Instead of a fly speed, you can have a burrow speed.
Oh, I maybe instead of burrow speed, because we can just do one for all of them this way, is if they're elementals, they can squeeze through like small spaces. They can make their body more malleable. Like mud or air or water or fire. They can like squeeze through keyholes and under door jams. And
so all elementals just have
that's just what they do. Their body becomes less physical and they can mush it around a little.
Okay, so that's just a feature of malleable body.
Yeah.
That'll be what I'll put.
Perfect.
Under elemental. You have an elemental. Yeah, we'll remove that. Burrow speed.
Oh, I think malleable body is their active ability.
For all of them?
Yeah. That way we don't have to, because we definitely don't want that in all of them. We can have more.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter which. I understand what you're saying. It doesn't matter which planar. I was like, man, this is going to be compared to everyone else, this is going to be a lot of wild features here.
No, a planar gets malleable body for their magic in the blood feature. Because we don't want them being able to do that out of combat. That's just an excuse for them to try and break into every house and steal everything.
Yeah, that's just having gaseous form.
Yep, that at will.
Yeah.
Not doing that. That's combat only, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
Cool. And then we can have, other stuff. So demon would be like forked tongue.
As their regular feature.
No, as their
as their magic in the blood feature.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to do the archetype features. We just do the magic in the blood ones now. And just try and think of things that they would, like malleable body applies to all the elementals.
Demon gets...
I'm thinking like forked tongue, which is like a beguile effect. They can like take over a minion from the other team.
Forked tongue, so it's going to be like a dominate creature.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Like it only works on something of a sufficiently low tier of a type of creature. Like you can't do it to the boss, but you can do it to one of the boss's minions.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Not in the solved all the problems kind of skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Angels get... Oh, I always go back to like some communication ability.
Yeah, we want all of these to be used in combat, though.
Mm-hmm. What about like a teleport? No, that's the outsider for sure.
Yeah, the outsider needs the teleport.
So Angel gets, I don't know, maybe like a aura that sets people on fire, like manifest halo or something. I mean, we've talked about radiant damage being literally like radiation damage. So they could just, be literally radioactive.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. An aura sorcerer.
Well, because the paladin's aura comes off of the mystic, so it's all buff stuff.
Yeah, the paladin is, I think his aura is going to be all buff type things.
It's all buff or debuff.
Well, and you could have come off the fighter. You'll get the aura either way.
Yeah, but the aura ability comes from the mystic.
Yeah,
so if it's on the sorcerer and we have it as just a damage option.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe it's, just an extra attack. Maybe it's just a laser.
Get a radiant beam.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like a debuff of sorts. Yeah. Like maybe you can something like an enfeeble type of thing.
Oh, like a blinding radiance kind of thing.
Yeah, like maybe it's something that negatively infects. It's something like a judgment type thing.
Yeah.
I know that sounds very paladin-y, but at the same time, if you're an angel sorcerer,
you should step on a few toes.
It should feel kind of paladin-y.
Yeah, it's like maybe you're the only thing they can see for a round.
I'm just going to write some type of debuff.
Yeah.
Because nothing's coming to me right now. I think
blindness debuff. Find out what blindness does later. Yeah. Because I like that, you just glow with radiant light and nobody can see, like a flashbang.
Some type of light-related debuff.
Perfect. I love it.
And then outsider is a teleport.
Yeah, quick action teleport.
Quick action teleport. And all of those things will cost a resource.
Yeah.
We do not know
what that resource is.
How much it's going to be. But I'm assuming these are going to be fairly high. The elementals maybe not, unless we end up changing it somehow. Because his is going to have like a little less use.
Yeah.
But quick action teleport, that's pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
Dominate a creature is really powerful. So that's going to have to cost quite a bit of resource. The angel debuff.
We'll see how good that is.
We'll see how good that is. It feels like it's maybe weaker right now than the demon sounds like the strongest. Yeah. Like initially dominating a creature.
Sure. But it's also a weak creature and it's also only one.
Yes. But it's taking a health pool from them and adding one to ours. So it is doubly effective. So I feel like right now that's the one that would have to cost the most blood points. Yeah.
Well, cool. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I feel really good. I'm going to throw a couple numbers on there just to start, like maybe 3 for the demons, 2 for the angel, 2 for the outsider, and 1 for the elemental right now.
Just one.
Just one. I think we'll probably end up changing the elementals a little bit.
Well, we'll just make it do more stuff. Like it probably they'll be able to avoid attacks of opportunity or whatever when they go past if we do those or
malleable. I
agree.
They can
move through opponent squares as if they weren't there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, if we give it enough of a unique movement ability, then that's probably good.
All right, it's not flashy, it's just convenient.
Yeah. It's wispy.
Yeah.
An elemental. All right. Catch you next time.
Catch y'all on the flip side.